Thank you, Ben. Well, Johnnie Moore is one of President Trump's evangelical advisors, and he joins us now. Now, Johnnie, you were at the White House this week with President Trump and other evangelical leaders. With everything going on right now, particularly with this impeachment inquiry on Capitol Hill, what was the mood like during this meeting?
I mean, here's the thing, the president seemed largely unfazed by it. I think when you read some headlines, the White House is reeling over all of it. I'm telling you, he was as confident and as spirited as we had ever seen him. And in fact, we spent most of our time not even talking about the impeachment subject at all. We were talking about criminal justice reform and protecting religious liberty and all the pro-life policies of the administration, the death of Baghdadi, the end of ISIS. I think, the president fights well alone, but he's not going to fight well alone on this one.
Well, when this issue of impeachment did come up, what did the president say about it, and what were the evangelical leaders advising the president on this issue about?
We basically told him, Mr. President, you fight well alone, but you're not going to have to fight well alone, because we're going to be standing right there with you every step of the way, because we don't actually believe this is about President Trump at all. This is about his agenda. And so I remember distinctly several of the leaders in the room saying, listen, you're actually impeaching us. That's what you're doing, Democratic leadership in the House. We recognize what's going on. It is the record agenda of this administration, and they're taking it very personally. And I think everyone that supports that agenda ought to recognize what's at stake in all of this.
Well, now, recently, quite a few evangelical leaders, took an opposite side from President Trump when it came to pulling the troops out of Syria. Where did you stand on that?
The thing about this subject is, the evangelical constituency of the administration doesn't expect to agree with the president all the time. What we do expect is that we have a seat at the table in moments of disagreement. And there were varied points of view on that subject matter. But what I can tell you is that we were very, very much involved as the policy evolved, throughout the process. And in the end, the administration has done a good job of explaining to us why they do certain things that they do. And when it comes to national security, things get complicated sometimes. You can't have all the stakeholders at the table when you're deciding something that involves strict confidentiality. But when it's all said and done, what matters is that we have our voice. And it was very, very clear the way that policy evolved, that evangelicals were at the table.
What can you share with us about the discussion on Syria that happened at the White House this week?
We didn't talk much about it this week, to be honest. I mean, that was last week's, 10 days ago. I can tell you we were exuberant, at the celebration of the end of Baghdadi, the waning part of ISIS, and we recognize clearly that this whole impeachment stuff, I mean, this is just one of the next political tactic by the Democratic House leadership just to end the administration. They really want to undo 2016, and if they can't do that, they don't want Donald Trump at the top of the ballot, because they recognize if he's at the top of the ballot, they have a real problem on their hands, including, by the way, about 39 members of the House that were in swing states. There are a lot of people in the middle of the road that recognize this is about politics, and what isn't getting done are bipartisan pieces of legislation. And the president's evangelical advisors are pretty diverse. And they're as frustrated with the House Speaker as anything, because things aren't getting through when they should be getting through.
And just real quick, our final question. You mentioned how a lot of this was celebrating different promises that President Trump made to evangelical voters that he's fulfilled. What else would you like to see this administration do?
Well, the interesting thing is that they've done so much. I mean, we were able, I think, within the first year and a half of the administration to achieve most of the priorities. He promised he would do certain things, and he ended up doing those things. Now, in the end, there are a lot of issues like, it seems tertiary to a lot of faith leaders, but little things like the trade agreement between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. This is an obvious bipartisan vote. It needs to get through. A trade deal with China. Evangelicals are paying attention to that, and they're also involved in the human rights conversations around it. And so there's a short list of remaining priorities, but most of all, we had a celebration this week. This administration has done a remarkable amount. They did it in a short period of time, and we're very, very glad to have our seat at the table.
Well, Johnnie Moore, thank you so much for being on today.
Thanks for having me.